Back in my Quest 2 days, I had 2 Quest 2s and basically 2 setups. One was for gaming, and the other was pretty much for supernatural or any other type of VR fitness. And the fitness one had a KKCOBVR facial interface, had a fan built into it that actually blew air in. Now they've made one for the Quest 3. Looks like it's based off a similar design. Let's check this out. KKCOBVR K3, $46 right now on Amazon with a $6 off coupon, bringing it to a total of $40, which when you figure you get a facial interface and a fan together, that's not a bad sounding price. You can feel it's got some weight to it for sure between the interface and the fan. It's actually got a pretty cool looking design, I'll give it that. Looks like they really integrated it nicely. Unlike a lot of other fan interfaces, this does not look like an afterthought. This looks like a built-on design. Nose pad is barely attached. That might leave a little something to be desired. They give you a cable that you can charge it, or in an emergency, you can drain power usually with these directly from the Quest. But on the Quest 3, I would not recommend ever doing that. They also give you a new top strap. I was gonna say it seemed like an odd choice, but interestingly, it adds a new mounting point. For all those of you out there who have a Quest 3 or you don't, you probably know that putting a strap on a Quest is kind of a nightmare, especially if the facial interface is still in place, to the point where I have hung on to this little random bit that came with me from somewhere just so I can put top straps in there instead of having to run it through this. Well, basically now, because this covers this up, they send you a new thin top strap that's gonna go through there to come back around. That could limit the amount of top straps you can potentially use. Should be basically the same install process. It still maintains the ability to slide this out for people with glasses, which is kind of surprising because we've seen interfaces go back and forth on whether or not they keep that. And it's got some actually pretty strong looking hinges in here, left and right. You press those and then this whole thing then slides in or out. Give me quite a bit of play for people who have glasses and need that extra space. Probably one of the many reasons why this thing feels pretty weighty though. White, so we're finally on theme with the actual Quest itself. I like that. This is not an Elite strap I like or promote. I just had this one laying around and I needed an Elite strap for this. Although we will test if it's possible to get it on there with the Bobo, although I feel like it's probably not gonna be. So this one, for a standard strap size, it seems like it's gonna work. It looks like they based the actual size of this off a similar size from the Quest 3's one. So at least most straps should fit. Really gotta push to make sure that thing is seated in there though, because if I do this, it shouldn't be popping out, which now it's not, but first it wanted to. We got on, high. So we got low, high, and off. I'm verifying that right now because sometimes low is like a like up and down. Seems to just be low, high, and off. None of them are quiet. Low isn't quiet, high is definitely not quiet. I'm not a huge Elite fan, but because of my Quest 2 having one of them that I use primarily for fitness, I really wanted something that would just really stick to my face. And because it was the Bobo VR strap that I was using, I had the ability to still hot swap the battery packs. Even on low, it's a lot of air it's pushing in. I'll give it that right off the bat. It's hitting me in kind of an unusual spot. So you can see here where the fan is located exactly. So basically when that's on your face, the wind is blowing straight down on the bridge of your nose and then spreading across your cheeks. Although probably one of the spots most people are getting sweaty. It's not really gonna hit you in the forehead because the pad's covering your forehead already, so that's no surprise. But even low is a significant amount of air. It is a noticeable amount of noise, although when you're in game, if you're doing something like Beat Saber, you're moving, you got the music up loud, it's not gonna really distract you. High feels like it could distract you. I wish there was like a really low, medium, high, because if you want to like watch a show or something, it's kind of nice to be able to have the fan really low and just still kind of get a little bit of airflow but not make much noise. Even the low, I would say, is making enough noise that outside of active games you would probably notice it's constantly running. High is definitely, I would call it sport mode. That is only for intense VR fitness. Boy, how hard is it to read through pass-through? A little too hard. Let's see if there's anything we can learn in here real quick. It does look clean. The white is perfectly matched with the color of the Quest. The silver grills actually look pretty good, I feel like. Especially designed for Quest 3 to alleviate the fogging problem. I will say the Quest 3, I've noticed a lot less fogging issues than I had on the Quest 2. Something about the way it's designed or the new pancake lenses, the style of them, it doesn't fog as much, but occasionally it is possible. The first level can be used for leisure mode, watching movies, etc. I would say movies, unless the movie's pretty loud, you're gonna really notice the fan. The second level can be used for intense gaming, fitness, and other activities, which I would agree with, yeah. 4 air intakes with unique wind direction. I see 2 intakes. I guess if it's just split into 2 different ones in each one. And the wind direction they're advertising on the inside, it's all just one. It's just blowing down on your nose. Light-proof and ergonomic nose pad designs. They're advertising a card slot design that once installed is stronger than other face covers and not easy to fall off. I will say that seems accurate. For whatever it is they've done to hold this thing in, it's uncomfortable almost to take it off. It's also kind of uncomfortable because there's not really an easy spot to grab your Quest anymore, because now these things are kind of covering the seam up top. You can't hold onto the strap and pull because the strap is now part of it. So maybe I can grab the strap and yeah, once it's on, it's not coming off very easily. Oof. Comes off almost scary, to be honest with you. Well, they say 4 air intakes. Maybe that counts as one of them underneath there. That's kind of an odd spot. Like you can clearly see from down here where the air is blowing in on your face, but the other part of this fan is just kind of odd to see. Let's get this reinstalled and play around with it a little bit more. So when I tried to pull it off, it moved out the lens covers. So let's try out these lens cover designs. So way in there's a little lever of some sort. Kind of reminds me of the Meta ones in that they are not great and not as easily adjustable as they should be. So you kind of have to learn, you push this in, and then at the same time you kind of do this motion where you push this in, but then you use your thumb to squish the whole thing out. Because if you push that and try to pull, this part doesn't actually ever move. So if I push this in and then try to pull on it, I'm just gonna unhook the whole thing. I push this in, and then I learn to move this in and out. So it has notches on the very top down in here to show you which setting you're on. So basically whether you're all the way in, all the way out, or somewhere in the middle. If I do have it all the way out now, yeah, it's giving a good amount of room in there for glasses. So this would still work well for glasses users if you want that function. It's theoretically possible to adjust it with it on, but it's not easy. And they advertise ergonomic and no light bleed. Remember, everyone's face shape is different, but I will say there is almost no light bleed anywhere, except the nose slot. Of course, different noses and sizes are gonna have a difference here, but with the nose, ultimately I'm getting some light bleed on the edges around my nose, which is hard to fix unless you have a flap that like stays down really tight on your nose. This isn't doing that. This is giving a lot of room in here, but it does make it comfortable, and it's actually pretty removable. I would personally maybe not even use this nose because it's not really doing anything for me, but as you can see here, there's one silicone hook, and then that goes over this whole bit here pretty easily. It's clear KKCOB has done this before. This isn't their first rodeo, and everything about it so far seems pretty good. One more test before we take it into game time. I want to know if it can fit with my favorite head strap in any way, shape, or form. My current favorite interface, if you haven't seen the video on this is a custom 3D printed one just for my face. I would love for them to add a point where I can hook a fan in here, but that isn't a thing yet. It holds on so well that it makes you almost uncomfortable to try to take it off at first. You got to get used to that. I'm not saying it's going to be easy, but will it work? So now the only tricky thing is if you are actually going to be actively playing with this, your 2 fans are going to be fighting for air because this one is sucking down right here. This one is sucking in right here. So they're essentially fighting for the same airspace, but I mean, it's far enough apart. It's not going to matter. Those actually look pretty good together, and they actually work together. Dang, it is still loud. For those of you who already have an S3 Pro, for reference, this KKCOB on low is about as loud as the Bobo VR on max. The airflow I wouldn't say is necessarily equivalent, it's just the actual sound volume of it. So when I say on low, it's still pretty noisy. You know this thing's on 100%, that's still pretty noisy. All right, it's time to take it away and do some testing and then get back at you with some final thoughts after we spend some time with this. KKCOB clearly took the learnings from the Quest 2 and the K2, I think it was called, and applied it towards making this K3. They've improved it. It doesn't have such a big profile, so it can be used with halo straps. The old one was noisy too, so I'm not gonna say it's less noisy. Maybe it's a little bit noisier, but the way it looks, how streamlined it is, how well it snaps in, the ability to adjust the lenses, you get a lot for $40, honestly. I am actually really impressed with this facial interface. They're probably imagining more you're gonna use it with their head strap, which for me, this head strap actually wasn't bad. It was kind of like a budget version of the Bobo VR S3 Pro, but still I'm not switching back to that head strap, and it wouldn't help. The only thing I was kind of hoping when they sent this, they actually sent this with an infrared light, and I thought maybe they're gonna send a splitter, and the splitter would have been great because then you could plug in the fan too off the battery, but no dice, so that doesn't help you there anyways. You are still gonna be back to plugging in this separately and having to charge it, and especially when you get about 2 hours if you're using on the max setting, 4 hours on the lower setting. So it does mean whenever you're done playing now, you are back to charging your Quest, possibly charging a battery. Now also potentially charging a fan, which is one thing this fan on the S3 has taken that issue out of the picture, which I really personally like. Now the battery powers it all. But that doesn't mean the interface isn't great on its own. If I didn't have custom facial interfaces that were made for my particular face, this would be going on one of my Quests full time and staying as one. I'm even considering it still because they are built for my face. I'm like, okay, for other people I demo the Quest 3 on, I almost want to keep this on there because it's a bit more universal. It's comfortable and it has a fan, which is great for new people because the fan not only keeps you a little cooler, helps prevent the fog, but the airflow can actually help keep people from getting motion sick. So it's all good benefits. So with that, I will leave a link in the description. Just know you're back to charging another thing once again. It's not even a bad price for a facial interface these days. That's pretty standard. And the fact that you're getting a fan with it is a pretty big added bonus. So good job, KKCOB. It's a little noisy, but I mean, and I definitely don't think we've ripped the thing apart, and I can't find a fourth inlet. Even John here, who has messed around with a lot of, like, dude used to repair people's phone screens, so like he knows how to tear things apart. Could not find a fourth inlet, so I think 3 inlets. Maybe what they're saying is there's just 4 altogether holes and one of them is the outlet hole. That's up for debate. Tell me what you think in the comments on that one, but I like this. I still am sticking personally with the oblique ones that I really like. These are custom printed directly for your face, but for now they're still only available in the US and you have to have an iPhone to get the 3D scan. But I will leave a link to those too, just in case you've been interested in those and haven't pulled the trigger yet. But I like this. I like how it looks. I like how they built it. And I think KKCOB is really coming around. I feel like when they first started out, it seemed like a lot of their stuff was really budget and some of it was kind of iffy, but even the strap stuff they're doing now, it's getting better and better. So keep it up. Let me know what you think in the comments, but thank you once again for being here with me. I'll see you in another reality.